This is pitcher Imai Tatsuya, who recently signed with the Houston Astros, and before he was one of the best pitchers in the NPB. I recently saw a YouTube video of him being a pitching coach and explaining all of his mechanical philosophies and basically what he thinks about in the pitching delivery. I thought it was super interesting. Imai uses a pitching philosophy, a pitching method called Kounoe method, which separates throwers into two different buckets: an arm body thrower and a leg body thrower. Imai categorizes himself as a leg body thrower, and a lot of things he talks about and applies to his mechanics are because of him being a leg body thrower. Without getting too much into the Kounoe method, I will make another video about that in the future. I thought that breaking down this video for Imai could help out a lot of pitchers in the United States. The video is in Japanese, but I will be translating it over in English and going over the points that I thought were most interesting and important in what he's talking about and helping the other pitcher he is in the video. Imai has very unique qualities. He has a very, very low arm slot, but then has a lot of induced vertical break on his fastball. He talks about how he throws one of his elite pitches, his gyro slider. He also talks about how he's able to have elite command and what he thinks helps him in that. There's a lot of interesting information in the video. I'll also put the original video in the link below if you want to check that out as well. But in this video, I'll be going over the 7 points that you guys could possibly apply to your own pitching delivery and your own pitching development. Hope you guys enjoyed the video.
Okay, so first thing that Imai is talking about when he's talking about the set position is basically he likes to set up a tiny bit open and his shoulders out here, out in front squared, because of the fact that he can go back and load here and he knows that he's going to return back into this position. So back to where he started. So basically he doesn't like starting neutral or close, because no matter how far you go back, you can only return in that same spot. So what that means is basically saying that he's trying to finish in the same spot where he was, which is right around here. So if he's here, he can load back and go back right to the same spot, where if you're a little bit closed off, it's going to be harder to come back to this position where you're landing here without kind of flying open. You're most likely going to become kind of in a crossbody, throw, where you kind of have to start throwing against your body. So he does this with medicine balls. He kind of works on loading up his backside and then just returning back to the spot. And if you do this at home, you can kind of feel that it feels like almost like a spring from the backside. Is like when you're loading up here, it like takes you back to the same position. Another reason why he does this is how he's able to actually command in the zone. When he's looking at the target from this position, he's able to really kind of lock in on an exact point where he wants to throw it. So that means when he's here, he finds a spot where he exactly wants to throw, and then he takes his eyes off and then goes right back to the spot. He basically explains that when you're able to do this, it's almost impossible not to throw it to the exact spot that you want it to. He also mentions that by doing this, you actually have to make sure that you're locked in on a tiny spot. I'm sure that you guys have heard of, aim small, miss small. It's kind of the same concept. It's not good enough to just kind of look at the vicinity of your target. You really want to lock in on one specific spot. So, usually the catcher's glove works, but sometimes if you're throwing different pitches, different guys have, spots where they want to look at, whether it's, the batter's front hip, the top of the catcher's head, whatever it is that works for whatever that pitch is going to move. But just opening up here and kind of looking at where he wants to throw, instead of kind of being closed off here and not really being able to like visualize or lock into one spot, is another reason why he likes to open up a little bit here, take his eyes off, and then go right back to that spot. So this is the first. He also mentions that 90% of your command is really determined by your set position. So if you're not comfortable in your set position and you're not really able to completely lock in on a specific area that you're trying to throw it to, you know, it's going to be really tough for you to actually be able to command, you know, consistently. So that's another reason why he likes to open up here, is he's able to really determine where he wants to throw it when he's able to kind of, you know, determine his set position by opening up his shoulders here, and just understanding that even though no matter how far he goes back, how far you twist, whatever you do, it's easy to kind of return back to that spot. Now, the second point I want to talk about, what Imai explains, is how he uses his lower half. Now, what he basically talks about is what he's trying to feel with his lower half is a really slight load in his right leg, but a lot of the force is coming from his plant leg. So when he's loading, he's really not trying to sit too long or stay too much grounded in his back leg. He's really just trying to kind of use it as a spring here and then load as much into his front leg. Now, something that happens in the video is the guy that he's coaching actually tells Imai that he actually can't feel much in his landing leg. So Imai says that he can fix this in basically doing one thing. And basically, the guy is in this position right here, and Imai basically turns his shoulders this way. That way, the guy can actually feel the power and the force that's actually being put into the ground with his left leg, and actually use that in his throw. He basically says that when you're turned like this, you can't really feel the tension and the force being put into the ground with this left leg if you're closed off here. You need to fully rotate here, and now you can actually put weight and feel the force that's actually being put into the ground with your left leg, like that here. And that's how guys actually are able to get an elite left leg, is the fact that their shoulders are fully rotated and they're actually able to put full force into the ground. And then as they release, that's what you get, that kick back in that leg block basically here. But you need full force into the ground by actually turning your shoulders here and then having release basically pull you into that block. Another great point that Imai makes is talking about how when you're too closed off and you're trying to throw with your arm is going to lead and be the driver of that throw. You have to let your shoulders fully rotate here and then decide to throw the ball. So basically, your arm is going to drive that throw if you're too closed off here, and you start to see how your elbow is starting to drive the throw. And then if you keep going here, you'll start to see how your direction is going to be more towards this way instead of more towards home plate, by letting your shoulders completely rotate and then throwing the ball here. Fourth point that Imai makes that I really like is he's basically trying to replace his shoulders. Now, if you've seen Imai throw, he's a very rotational type of thrower, but his main objective is to replace his left shoulder with his right shoulder as fast and as violent as he can. And this works for all type of throwers, whether you're over the top, more 3/4, or if you're more of a rotational thrower. So basically, if your shoulder's here, he's trying to replace it as fast as he can, and that's what actually is going to speed up your arm and create arm speed. And if you're not able to fully rotate as fast as you can, then it's not going to be as fast, basically, is what he's saying. So if you're afraid to rotate fast, that's going to affect how fast your arm is actually able to move. So the more comfortable you are with replacing your shoulders and actually moving fast with rotation, that's actually what's going to speed up your arm. It's almost like a punch. He talks about how when you're throwing a straight right hand, you're from here, and you're just trying to replace and do this motion as fast as you can. And that's what is actually able to create arm speed, is how fast you can rotate here. So thinking of it as a punch is what is actually going to create arm speed. This is kind of a bonus point that I wanted to add in, and this is more for advanced guys, but the way that Imai is actually able to get elite VAA on his fastball is the fact that he does not get under the ball. He has a very low release slot, and the way he talks about how he gets that is not letting the elbow drive the throw. So if he comes in more low through here, and he can only do that, he talks about, is by replacing the shoulders and almost coming at it like a punch instead of kind of staying closed and letting his elbow come here and him kind of getting under the ball. He says that if he's able to stay upright and he's able to come low like this with his hand low, he's able to actually kind of just release the ball out here, and then the ball will kind of just shoot out like this instead of kind of letting his elbow get under and getting his hand under the ball and then releasing it that way. Fifth point that Imai makes in his instruction is basically posture. So he wants to make sure that his posture is nice and upright and that he's not leaning this way. He says that basically the more you lean this way, your elbow is going to be the driver of the throw, where he wants to stay more upright and almost think of it as taking this ball all the way here, and his head is staying through and still. And he says you can even lean it this way. That'll let you almost kind of take the ball farther out that way. Now, real quick, the sixth point that Imai makes is how to throw his slider. Now, if you don't know, Imai has one of the most elite gyro sliders metrically in the NPB, and it should play over to the MLB as well. But he talks a little bit about how he throws it, and basically he's trying to release it very, very early, and that's how he's actually able to get that gyro type of profile on his slider. One thing he talks about, if you want to actually get more of a gyro and kill vertical break, is actually releasing it very, very early. He says basically the longer you hold a slider grip, you're more likely you are going to get on the side of the ball and actually have it more break horizontally. So the earlier you release it, the more it has a chance to actually go vertically negative and be able to kind of get more of that drop in the ball. All right, and the seventh and last thing that Imai talks about is how he's actually able to hit certain spots. Other than the fact that he tries to visualize where he's throwing, he actually likes to kind of take his arm to wherever he wants to throw. So sometimes he talks about how before he's getting set, he will actually determine where he's going to take the ball here. So he actually sets it up here, and then he goes to set, and then as he takes his eyes off, he just goes right back to the spot where he originally was. Now obviously you can't do this in the game because you're going to be telling the batter where you're going to throw it, but you can do this in practice, and then once you actually get ready better in practice, you can kind of already picture it in the game where you can almost kind of set up like where you're going to take this. So he's saying if he wants to go inside on a lefty, he's going to take his arm here and he's going to come off of it and then just go right back to the spot where he was starting from. He says this way he's able to command basically where he wants to put any type of pitch. If it's fastball inside to a lefty, he goes here. If it's to a righty, he kind of goes here, and then he takes off right here and then goes right back to the spot where he was. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. Hopefully you can like the video as well. I'll be posting more YouTube videos like this, and hopefully you guys can subscribe and follow.